It's 1994, and the musical landscape is at a crossroads. The alternative Big Bang in 1991 has started to expand the universe at a greater rate of speed. Liquid magma is becoming hard crust. Anything resembling rock and roll is being labeled alternative. So much so that the word has become benign and milquetoast. For every band out there that is pushing sonic boundaries, there are 15 other bands that are, I don't know, just putting out music. It's a real interesting time. The number one song is as perfect a number one song as I can think of to describe, what was going on. And the song was All for One by Rod Stewart, Sting, and Bryan Adams. 3 performers that have a certain pedigree, but have now combined their forces to become a Voltron of suck. Me, I was wandering around my high school, taking a second stab at my senior year. Yeah, I went back for another go round. So I was taking drama and typing and doing all sorts of, performance and things like that, just to try and get by and make sense of things. But we're here to talk about Pavement. What was going on with Pavement? Well, they had come out of the chrysalis that was Watery Domestic, a new and different band. Gone was Gary Young. In his place, Bob Nastanovich's childhood friend, Steve West. Along with Westy, Mark Ibold joined the fold. No longer just a touring component. This was a band now. This was a band that had a rhythm section. It had an enhanced rhythm section with Bob, if you think about it that way. But nevertheless, everything that was going on with this band was new and different. Change was in the air. So as you unwrap the cellophane from your CD and put Crooked Rain into your player on February 2nd, 1994, all the questions you had about this band and the changes that they had been going through were about to be answered in a big, big way. Welcome to Meeting Malcolmus, a Pavement podcast. I wanna say, it's my second-hand wonder. Hey, it's JD here, back for another week of being uncool and underqualified. Yet, I somehow got the keys to this fucking car, and I'm going to drive you places that you never could have imagined that we would go. We are sitting behind the wheel of a brand new record, and it smells wonderful. Crooked Rain joined the world February 2nd, 1994. Although it took me 6 years later to find the record myself, it was a game changer for me in the way that I understood Pavement. And I can't wait to desegment this record track by track with you and get to the bottom of what exactly was going on with the band at this time and listen to some just really great music. So there's that. Before we get into the music, however, we typically talk to our friend Bobby from Atlanta to uncover some factoids, nuggets, gems about the album artwork. And I think we should do that now before we get too deep into things. So let me pick up the horn here and give Bobby a call.
Hello?
Bobby.
Yes.
How's it going? It's JD.
Good. I thought that was you.
Yeah, I
I'm
just
doing
tried you.
well.
Oh, excellent. This is good to hear. How
How are you?
I am pretty good. Can't complain. I just got my flu shot and I'm feeling invincible. So we're talking Crooked Rain, Crooked Rain. We made it. We got through Slanted and here we are. I'm looking at something that looks pretty mysterious to me. You know, noodling about in a record shop, it would be enticing to me. It would, you know, it looks like something cool. That's my base analysis. I'm wondering, you know, what you've gleaned and what you've learned.
I started Googling cover art, Crooked Rain, all sorts of different variations, just trying to see if I could find something to start a starting point. And so I found through Google, I found there's some credits in the back, and it says original album artwork by SM.
Okay.
Who we can probably imagine that might be Stephen Malcolmus.
I think you're right.
And then reissue art direction by Mark O.
Oh.
And so I Google Mark O, Matador, and I get Mark O's personal sort of art direction, graphic design website where he puts all of his work. And so there's a contact page there. So I type out an email. There's actually an email address. So I email Mark O, and I get an email back like 15 minutes.
You fucking sleuth. I love this.
I'm sleuthing. So 15 minutes, maybe an hour after I email Mark O emails me right back. And he says, "Hey, Bobby, it's great to hear from you. I'd love to talk about the album artwork for Crooked Rain, and whatever I can do for your podcast, you let me know." Which is just, you know, what are the odds that somebody's that generous with their time and their information? And so anyway, I set up a phone call with the one Mark O. And turns out he's in Venice, Italy right now with his family on vacation. And they're cooking dinner at their rented abode in Venice. And he's talking to me about remastered Crooked Rain artwork while on vacation in Italy.
What a guy.
Which is just, yeah. And I can't express how grateful I am for his receptivity, but also just he had I think he was genuinely excited and wanting to share information. He would not attempt to wrap up the phone call, as people tend to do when they're busy. He waited and waited for me to prompt him that I had used up his valuable vacation time before he agreed to end the phone call. So we talked for 30 minutes probably. And what I've gleaned from that was a couple of things. The most amazing thing that I've learned from that phone call is that just a glimpse into the process. So Stephen met with the Matador Records owners and went to dinner with them one night. This is prior to Slanted. And he had, lo and behold, Stephen had the original artwork of the vinyl keyboard capers in his hand at dinner and handed the physical copy to them. And they said, you know, this is your vision and the music is amazing and we want to honor it. So they took the album from him after dinner and went back to the office and handed it to this Mark O character who was, at that time, he was working for Matador he was the fourth person in the building, I think.
Wow.
There were two owners. I may be off by one or two, but there were two owners, co-owners of Matador, and somebody else, I would assume secretarial something, and then Mark. And Mark was the art director for whatever the cat drug in. He dealt with it. So these guys came back from dinner, and they handed Mark this artwork for Slanted and said, "Here you go. This is what Steven wants to use." And Mark basically said, "Well, if that's what he wants to use, then that's what we're using," because he's, Mark kind of alluded to the fact that Steven, they know each other, they've spoken on the phone. I would have presumed they've met. And Mark kind of alluded to the fact that Steven had a very clear vision and a good eye, and he has an intention about what he's doing, even when it comes to kind of a three-dimensional vision of this thing. The music is done, it's been recorded, but he's also got the whole package figured out. He knows what he wants, and he has a vision for how it's going to come together. So I think a similar story with Crooked Rain, where there was album artwork drawn and pasted together with glue and marker. And this was done, so Crooked Rain's album artwork actually originated in London or somewhere in England. There's a fellow named Abbo who is the owner of Big Cat Records.
Okay.
In Europe. And so Abbo had the original artwork in his possession of Crooked Rain, and Mark, the art director at Matador, never got to see the actual physical artwork, because this guy, Abbo, who seems kind of like an elusive character, he had, back in the day, they would shoot with a camera, literally, they would shoot a picture of artwork. So if you drew a painting, on a napkin or whatever, they could light it and set it up on the wall, basically, and snap a photo of it, and then they could create film out of that, which is a printing process. So they create 4 different colors of film, and then that is generated onto the press, and the printing is done from that film. So Matador had, when the album was due to be released, they had film of the artwork, and that was taken in some way or another from Big Cat Records. I guess maybe there may have been a prior release in Europe or something. I'm not exactly sure how that worked. So anyway, Mark has never seen the original artwork for Crooked Rain, but he's seen the film, and they actually go in and they will, when the reissue happens, they will go in and block out on the film. They'll go and tape parts out, such as the release date or record company. I think they actually blocked out or taped out the Big Cat Records logo when they ended up releasing it through Matador. Where am I at this point? Let's see. Do you have any questions so far?
No, I'm just sitting here grinning. This is great.
I'm throwing a lot at you, and I hope it's not too cumbersome or too much information. Yeah. So the first thing, after Mark agreed to talk to me on the phone, he emailed me a little JPEG image, and he said, JPEG of possible interest, which is like, it's very much like a sleuthy kind of like murder mystery sort of thing. So he emailed me this JPEG, and it's the cover, it's the central image with two ladies, or maybe I guess it's one lady putting her hands in opposite directions over what appears to be a horse race or a dog race card,
like a race card, yeah.
Your bet, yeah, where you would place your bets.
That's right.
And so he sends me this image, and it's torn out of National Geographic magazine.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so very similar thread to Slanted, where he kind of pirated something and obviously kind of overlaid these black and white zigzags around the image. But it says luck, and then Stephen writes below the image, he writes luck on every finger. So that came directly. I'm going to pull up this JPEG so I can see it. I'll read you. It says, before the bugle calls at Hot Springs Oak Lawn Jockey Club, high-strung thoroughbred Gas takes a reassuring nibble of his calm companion Herman. And that's referring to an image of a horse. I guess that would be on that same page. And then, so the caption to this image with the turquoise jewelry says, let's see, lucky pieces abound at the track. One visitor from New Mexico believes in wearing luck on every finger.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. And so Stephen...
and that's in Malcolm's handwriting.
He rewrote the caption to the photo in his own handwriting to kind of, give it a little reference.
That's great.
So I thought that was fascinating. And yeah, he's kind of like, I don't know what the term is, but he's kind of just writing, he's writing things as they cross his mind, it seems, all the time, which is great. I think it's a great way to generate copy or song lyrics, just, whatever's going on in your life. If you're reading literally reading a National Geographic magazine, and I guess that it's a alluring photo with it's some metallic fingernail polish. It's just a very weird photo.
You got to keep that notebook open, kids. You never know when you're going to stumble upon the next great idea.
Keep the ideas flowing.
That's right.
It also says on here, so my take is that and Mark and I pondered this together as we were talking on the phone across the Atlantic Ocean. I asked Mark, I said, you know what? I wonder if the photo is 100% scale. So if that photo was taken out of National Geographic, I wonder if it's actually 5 inches tall or whatever, in reference to the size of the vinyl album cover. And then I started talking about, I wonder if this is like the Beatles' White Album background that has been mutilated, just like keyboard cavers. I mean, it didn't have to be Beatles' White Album. It could be Fleetwood Mac. I think the self-titled Fleetwood Mac is all white. Any white vinyl cover, and then just start, gluing things on top of it and pasting scraps. And I think that Mark doesn't know because he's never seen the real artwork, but I think that might be the way that these things were done. And he said that made sense to him because the scale, the dimensions of an album are not square. They're slightly wider, the jacket at least slightly wider than it is tall. So
did not know that. I was assumed it was a square.
Yeah. Well, you just glance at even a CD jacket or.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think we've sleuthed our way to the concept that he is reading magazines in his spare time and cutting pictures out and gluing them on things and coming up with artwork. Maybe he didn't even intend for this to be, I don't know if he intended it to be the cover when he was doing it, or maybe he had 3 or 4 versions and was just fooling around with them. But Mark also suggested, when they did the reissue, he said, he made a point of saying that they did nothing from scratch on this reissue, that it was all straight out of a shoebox that was sent with scraps.
Oh, man.
And that Scott Camberg was an excellent
archivist.
Yeah, he kept a lot of stuff, and he was a great reference, as was Stephen. But it's funny, he kind of said that, he had intended this cover to be the Crooked Rain cover, and same for Slanted. But when it came to the LP labels, like the sticker that goes on the actual vinyl,
right?
Mark said, he quoted Stephen and said that Stephen just said, "Just do whatever."
Really?
Like he just didn't care. He had done, he felt, I wouldn't say he didn't care, but there was a level of trust there.
Well, that
Mark had trusted Stephen's vision by verbatim duplicating exactly what he gave and making that the album cover. And so I think they kind of built a level of trust to where Stephen said, you just take care of it.
That aspect of it is cool. Like the trust aspect of it is cool, but it does seem sort of out of character as well for somebody that is, got the vision and the angle, so knocked out, to be hands off in part of the aesthetic. That's fascinating to me.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I wrote on this sheet of paper where I was kind of taking notes that there's always this tug of war between lots of effort involved in things, and then on the other hand, having it just seem like kind of off the cuff and aloof.
Well,
like the recording process is just, we'll do one take and then just put it on the album.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, agreed. It's designed haphazardness, sort of to a degree. You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we know that this stuff has stood the test of time and it really works. And, it's so, it's so funny when you hear how sort of aloof they were, around the material, around the conceit of things. Yeah. Very cool.
But, on the flip side, the thing that I'm trying to reckon in my mind is, on the flip side, he probably spent, I don't know, at least 2 hours with glue and scissors and meticulously, messing around with this stuff. And then he kind of was like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's great. We like it. Let's do it.
Well, that's the question, right? The word meticulous. That's the question. How meticulous are or were they? A band that made it's good enough one of their mantras, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like the effort is always there. Like there's always a strong effort.
Yeah.
But there's never polish. There's some sort of balance there where we're going to do the best we can, the absolute best we can, but we're not going to question it, and we're not going to hem and haw over. Maybe we should go. Even like on perfect example, the first track, Silence Kid, is now known as Silence Kit.
That's right.
Because a smear of ink on the artwork, and
I did not know that.
That was fixable. It was like pen ink or paint or something that had been accidentally smudged as it was being written.
So great.
So it's not, the name of the song is Silent Kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've got the project file open right now, and I typed Silent Kid, episode 40, Silent Kid, and then I made a note to myself to go back and change it to Silent Kid. Maybe I'll keep it Silent Kid just to be defiant.
But the funny thing too is that once it became known to the public as Silence Kit with a T, they just said, screw it, we'll just call it Silence Kid.
Yeah.
So now the reissue says Silence Kit.
Right.
It's not even the right name. And they're fine with it. You know, they're like, that's what people know it as Silence Kit, so we'll just change the name.
Jesus.
It's such a weird, magical thing, you know?
So you got a kick out of doing this?
I did, and ironically, when I bought on eBay, I bought the album again for the third time, and I just stared at it, and I was thinking, this is going to be a dud. It's just, there's not a whole lot to talk about other than there's a picture of some hands with rings on them and some scribble, So I was a little worried, a little concerned, and then I found my friend Mark, and things just,
Well, now you have a hookup.
Different turn.
When we talk Wowie Zowie.
Mark knows everything.
Thanks so much, Bobby.
Well, you're so welcome. I hope that was informative for all of our listeners.
I think they're going to love it.
Yeah. We'll look forward to the next time.
All right, brother.
All right, man. Have a great rest of the week.
You too. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was my conversation with Bobby from Atlanta, the Meeting Malcolmus album artwork guru with a connection. Ooh la la. Interesting. So when we meet with him next, we'll be talking Wowie Zowie, and maybe he'll have some more information from his friend Mark, or perhaps he'll have another new connection. So there's that. I can tell you that Bobby brought up in the conversation the whole Silent Kit issue. And, to me, the lyrics of the song suggest that it is Silent Kid. And Bobby made mention to the fact that the original artwork had Silent Kid on it, but they spilled some ink or spilled some paint and changed it to Silent Kit. But again, the lyrics very, very much silent. The first two words of the song are Silent Kid. No one to remind you. You've got no hip, no reels to remind you. Silent Kid. Don't take your pawn shop home on the road. God damn you. Silent Kid. Don't lose your graceful tone. Man, I'm already just in love with this song, and I've only read the first verse. This is the city life. This is the city life. Oh, come on. Let's talk about leaving. Come on now. Let's talk about your family. Your sister's cursed. Your father's all but damned you. Silent Kid, don't listen to your grandmother's advice about Ezra. Silent Kid, don't listen to them. Hand me the drum, stick, snare, kick. Blues call upon I knew myself. Into the spotlight. Ecstasy feels so warm inside. Until 5 hours later, I'm chewing, screwing myself with my hand. And that's lyrically what we're dealing with here. We'll unpack that a little bit in a second, but let's talk about musically. Let's talk about the fact that this is a larger band now. They've got Bob in the studio. They've got Mark in the studio. They've got Steve West having worked out a lot of these songs with SM prior to going to gosh, what's the studio called? Lovely Falls or something like that. It's in New York State. Let me consult my book. It was in Random Falls. How do you like those apples? Random Falls. Doesn't get much more random than that. So yeah, Random Falls, New York was the studio where they congregated in the middle of 1993 to start laying down what would become Crooked Rain. And right off the top, you've got this really fucking gnarly introduction that leaves you sort of scratching your head. It's very different. It's very noodly and jammy, and unlike a Pavement that we've heard thus far. Are they trying to get into tune? Are they trying to get into sync? I don't know. But that's what it feels like to me. It feels like they're trying, metaphorically, I suppose, to take this larger unit and get it into sync, get it into origin. And you even hear them say at one point, help us, Scott, which is different because up until this point, he's been Spiral Stairs, and them referring to him by name, Scott, is different as well. So like I mentioned off the top of this podcast, this is a different band. There's a different vibe going on. There is a real rhythm. They take advantage of the rhythm section. There's a real rhythm in this song. I mean, there's fucking woodblock, for God's sake. It's or cowbell, if you will. It's got a groove that makes you move your hips, and then when that vocal melody kicks in, it's an earworm. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's designed to sound as though it's, off key, but it sits in that sweet spot that it's certainly not off key. It's Steven stretching his voice and moving it to a place that is a little bit uncomfortable if you want, your music auto-tuned and perfect sounding or whatever. I don't know. But this is nuanced, and this is just really quite wonderful. Now, as far as the lyrics go, I think, again, we're dealing with a band here, a lyricist in Stephen Malkmus, that is trying to express a feeling of isolation in his surroundings. In this case, thinking back to when he was in Stockton and trying to get out of Stockton. He talks about your father's, you want to join a rock band, like your sister's cursing your father's damning you, and your grandmother's trying to talk about Ezra, and like what the hell is this? I don't know, but I'm going to be in a rock band. I'm going to be practicing my music, and I'm going to kick ass, and I'm going to get out of this town. But in reality, 5 hours later, I'm going to be, jerking off in my bed, dreaming of fame and fortune. I don't know. That's what I think. That's what I got. So let's just listen to the song. This has been a talk heavy episode, but we need to listen to this goddamn song. So let's give her and whirl away with Silent Kit on Meeting Malkmus, a Pavement podcast.
hand me the drumstick, snare, kick, blues, 'cause I myself in the spotlight, ecstasy, feel sad, warm inside town. 5 hours later, I'm chewing, screwing myself with my hand.
Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast, is a weekly affair. You can find the show anywhere that you find podcasts, just like you did today. So be a dear and rate and review the show. If you want to connect, email me at jd@meetingmalcolmus.com. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check it out. I'm so social.
The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to shop new deals at Lowe's. Make your home even merrier with up to 75% off select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees, holiday lights, and more. Plus, don't miss our limited-time weekly deal drops on items like appliances, tools, and grills. There's something for everyone on your list. Count on Lowe's to help you save all season long, because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 12/5 through 12/11 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.